Imagine waking up tomorrow with a long, muscular tail swaying behind you. It sounds like something from science fiction. Yet, if you rewind Earth's history far enough, a tail wasn't unusual at all. It was the standard design. In fact, every one of your distant mammalian ancestors had one. Somewhere along our evolutionary journey, however, that familiar appendage disappeared. The question is, why?
Look closely at your own body, and you'll find a clue hiding in plain sight. At the very bottom of your spine sits a small triangular bone called the coccyx, commonly known as the tailbone. It isn't just an ordinary bone. It's the silent remnant of a tail your ancestors once carried millions of years ago. Every time you sit down or lean backward, you're using a tiny piece of that forgotten past.
The story begins over 300 million years ago, when early four-limbed vertebrates spread across ancient landscapes. Their tails were far more than decorative. They acted as powerful balancing poles, steering devices, and even storage sites for muscles that helped with movement. As mammals evolved, tails became incredibly versatile. Some stabilized fast runners, others helped animals climb trees, while many species used them for communication, defense, or swatting insects. When primates first appeared roughly 60 million years ago, they inherited this ancient tool. Early monkey-like primates depended heavily on their tails while racing across branches high above the forest floor. A tail functioned almost like an extra balancing rod, allowing quick leaps between trees without losing stability. For millions of years, it was one of evolution's greatest inventions. Then, something extraordinary happened. Around 25 million years ago, a new branch of primates emerged, the ancestors of today's apes. Unlike monkeys, these early apes gradually lost their external tails. Chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans, gibbons, and eventually humans would all inherit this unusual feature. But evolution never removes something without consequences. Losing such a useful structure should have been a disadvantage. So, why did natural selection allow one of nature's oldest body parts to vanish? The answer lies in an evolutionary transformation so dramatic that it would eventually reshape not only our bodies, but the entire future of humanity. The disappearance of the tail wasn't a sudden event. No single ape was ever born without one and instantly changed history. Instead, countless tiny genetic changes accumulated over millions of years, gradually shortening the tail generation after generation until it became almost invisible. Why would evolution favor such a change? The answer may lie in how early apes moved through their world. Scientists believe that as the pelvis and lower spine evolved to support these new forms of climbing and suspension, the muscles once attached to a large tail were reorganized. Instead of controlling a long, flexible appendage, they became integrated into the hips and pelvic floor, helping stabilize the body in new ways. This wasn't simply a body part disappearing, it was an entire redesign of the skeleton. Remarkably, the evidence for this ancient transformation still appears before any human is even born. During the 4th to 6th week of development, every human embryo grows a small, visible tail containing several vertebrae. For a brief moment, we look surprisingly similar to many other tailed vertebrates. Then, as development continues, specialized cells begin reshaping the embryo. Most of that tiny tail is gradually reabsorbed into the growing body, leaving behind only a few fused vertebrae that become the coccyx. It's like watching millions of years of evolution replay in just a few weeks. Even more astonishing, in rare cases, this developmental process is incomplete, and babies are born with small tail-like structures. Most aren't true functional tails, but they reveal that the ancient genetic blueprint has never completely disappeared. If those instructions are still hidden inside our DNA, one mystery remains. What genetic switch turned the tails of our ape ancestors off in the first place? For decades, scientists knew that apes lost their tails, but not how. Fossils could reveal when tailless apes appeared, and embryos showed that humans still briefly grow a tail, yet the genetic trigger remained one of evolution's biggest mysteries. Then, modern genetics uncovered an important clue. Researchers comparing the DNA of humans and tailed monkeys identified a key difference involving a gene called TBXT, sometimes known as the brachyury gene. This gene plays a crucial role in building the spine and tail during early embryonic development. In 2024, scientists reported that a specific genetic change affecting the regulation of TBXT could have contributed to tail loss in the common ancestors of all living apes. To test the idea, researchers engineered mice with similar genetic changes. Some of these mice developed much shorter tails, or no tails at all. It was one of the strongest pieces of evidence yet that a relatively small change in DNA could dramatically reshape an animal's body over evolutionary time. But this discovery didn't solve the entire mystery. Evolution almost never depends on a single mutation. Scientists believe tail loss was likely influenced by multiple genes, natural selection, and millions of years of gradual anatomical change. The TBXT finding is a major breakthrough, but it is only one chapter in a much larger evolutionary story. Even more intriguing is the possibility that losing the tail came with trade-offs. Some researchers suggest that the same genetic changes that removed the tail may also have slightly increased the risk of certain spinal developmental problems. Evolution doesn't create perfect designs. It works with compromises. A change that offers an overall advantage can still carry hidden costs. By the time our ancestors were fully tailless, their bodies had already begun transforming in other remarkable ways. Their hips, lower backs, and posture were becoming better suited for climbing, hanging, and eventually something no ape before them had mastered: walking long distances on just 2 legs. The missing tail wasn't the end of the story. It may have been one of the first dominoes to fall in the chain of events that ultimately made us human. When we picture human evolution, we usually imagine one dramatic moment: our ancestors standing upright for the first time. But that transformation was actually built upon millions of years of smaller changes. Losing the tail was one of them, quietly reshaping the body long before humans ever walked across open savannas. Without a long tail extending behind the body, the lower spine, pelvis, and surrounding muscles gradually evolved into a new system of support. The coccyx, though tiny, still serves an important purpose today. It anchors muscles, tendons, and ligaments that support the pelvic floor, helping with posture, balance, and everyday movements. Far from being a useless leftover, the tailbone is a recycled piece of evolutionary engineering. Yet, its presence is also a reminder of where we came from. Every human embryo briefly revisits this ancient past, growing a tiny tail before it disappears. Hidden inside our DNA are echoes of ancestors that clawed through forests with tails stretching behind them. Evolution doesn't erase history. It rewrites it, leaving subtle clues for future generations to discover. Could humans ever evolve tails again? Based on everything scientists know today, it's extraordinarily unlikely. Evolution has no goal or memory. A complex structure like a functional tail would require many coordinated genetic changes, and there is currently no known evolutionary pressure that would favor its return. While rare developmental anomalies can produce tail-like structures at birth, these are not evidence that humans are evolving tails again. Instead, our story is one of adaptation, not reversal. Millions of years ago, losing a tail may have seemed like an insignificant change in one population of ancient apes, but over countless generations, that single evolutionary shift became part of a cascade of transformations, that eventually led to upright walking, skilled hands, larger brains, and the remarkable species reading these words today. So the next time you feel your tailbone against a chair, remember this. You're touching one of the oldest souvenirs your body still carries, a silent fossil hidden beneath your skin, preserving the memory of a tail that vanished over 25 million years ago, yet continues to tell the extraordinary story of what it truly means to be human.